KPSM seeks public's assistance in identifying armed robbery suspects. Minister Grisha Haliger-Martin, regarding the high electricity bills, the work on the new Thelbert Carty Stadium is about to begin. NRPB Director Claret Connor to be sworn in as Minister of Public Health, Social Development and Labour. From the island of St. Martin, this is SXM Daily News for August 5th, 2026. The police force of St. Martin, KPSM, in cooperation with the prosecutor's office, St. Martin, SXM, is requesting the public's assistance in identifying the suspects involved in 2 attempted armed robberies at the Carrefour Express supermarket in Jordan Village during June 2026. Investigators from KPSM's Armed Robbery Department believe the same suspects may be responsible for both incidents. During the first attempted robbery, 2 suspects with their faces covered approached a cashier from behind. One suspect pointed a handgun at the employee while demanding that the cash register be opened. The suspects fled the scene on a black scooter. In the second incident, 2 armed suspects again entered the supermarket with their faces concealed, threatened employees, and fled the scene in a blue Hyundai i10. As part of the ongoing investigation, several photographs of the suspects accompany this press release. KPSM urges anyone who recognizes the individuals, has information about the black scooter or the blue Hyundai i10, or witnessed anything suspicious in the Jordan Village area around the time of these incidents, to come forward. Justice. Anyone with information is asked to contact the KPSM tip line at 9300, call the police station at +1 721 542 2222, visit the nearest police station, or send a private message through the KPSM Facebook page. All information will be treated confidentially. Every piece of information, no matter how small, may be the key to identifying those responsible and bringing them to justice. Minister Grisha Haliger-Martin, to speak directly to the young people of St. Martin, especially young men. Fellas, please hear me. Some of you believe that carrying a gun earns respect. Some of you believe that joining a robbery makes you powerful. Some of you believe that quick money is easier than honest work. The minister said at the COM press briefing,
to speak directly to the young people of St. Martin, especially young men. Fellas, please hear me. Some of you believe that carrying a gun earns respect. Some of you believe that joining a robbery makes you powerful. Some of you believe that quick money is easier than honest work. But those are lies. Real strength is not found behind a weapon. Real respect is not earned through fear. Real success is never built on someone else's pain. Every robbery you commit doesn't just hurt the victim. It hurts our community. It hurts our country. Every shooting doesn't just destroy one family. It damages the future of our young persons trying to find a job. Every act of violence makes it harder for businesses to invest, harder for tourists to choose St. Martin, harder for employees to hire, harder for the economy to grow. And in the end, you are helping to destroy the very island that was one day provide for your future children. This country belongs to you. Protect it. Don't destroy it. Build it. And if you're already gone down that wrong path, understand this. Your story is not over. One mistake does not have to become your entire future. There are people willing to help you. Reach out before the prison cell. Mentorship, sports, the creative industry, tourism, technology, and agriculture. Every legitimate pathway that gives our young people hope and purpose. My ministry stands ready to work alongside justice, education, VSR, community organization, churches, and the private sector to help create more of those opportunities. But government alone cannot make the choice. Only you can. Choose education over crime. Choose discipline over destruction. Choose hard work over easy money. Choose purpose over violence. Choose a future that makes your family proud. Choose to become part of a generation that builds St. Martin instead of breaking it. People of St. Martin, there is a common thread running through every single thing I have spoken about this morning. Whether we're strengthening oversight in GB, expanding international partnership, building a stronger tourism economy, creating opportunities for our young women, are working with our justice partners to address the crime. Every one of these efforts is about one thing: building confidence in St. Martin. Confidence in our institutions, our economy that is growing, our businesses that can, confidence that businesses can invest, confidence that families can feel safe, confidence that our young people have a future worth believing in. Confidence is one of the most valuable assets any nation possesses. Businesses invest where there's confidence. Visitors travel where there is confidence. Families build their futures where there's confidence. Young people dream where there's confidence. And that confidence cannot be created by government alone. It belongs to all of us, to every resident, business owner, church, school, community organization, every parent, every young person listening to the sound of my voice today. To our youth, I leave you with this final thought. This island, it has invested in you. Now I ask you to invest in your island. Protect it. Respect it. Lead it. Because St. Martin, the St. Martin we build today will become the St. Martin our children inherit tomorrow. Together, let us continue to build a stronger and safer and more prosperous St. Martin. God bless our island.
Minister of Tourism, Economic Affairs, Transport and Telecommunication, Grisha Heiliger Martin. I know that high electricity bills and fuel price fluctuations continue to place tremendous pressure on household budgets and our local businesses. I hear the frustration, and I understand the concern and why the people of St. Martin are demanding clear answers. When this government assumed office, we committed to establish a utility regulation system that is lawful, transparent, professionally supervised, and capable of serving this country long after any individual government has left office. Minister speaking at the press briefing on Wednesday.
I know that high electricity bill and fluctuations in the fuel clause continue to place a tremendous pressure on the household budgets and our local businesses. I hear the frustration and I understand the concern. And I understand why the people of St. Martin are demanding clear answers. When this government assumed office, we made a commitment to establish a utility regulation system that is lawful, transparent, professionally supervised, and capable of serving this country long after any individual government has left office. For many years, the regulatory framework envisioned in law was never fully activated. That regulatory gap was inherited by this government. And today, we're closing that gap. Rather than introducing another temporary solution that might later prove ineffective or legally vulnerable, we choose to build a regulatory framework that protects consumers through sound legislation, independent oversight, and evidence-based decision-making. That work is now well underway. On July 13, BTP, acting in its capacity as a concession supervisor under the ministerial decree, formally issued GB with a comprehensive request for information. The supervisor requested operational data, pricing information, and financial records necessary to independently examine GEBE's billing practice and fuel clause calculation. I can officially confirm today that GEBE has cooperated fully throughout this process and has complied with the required deadlines. During the final week of July, more than 400 financial, operational, and technical documents were submitted to BTP. These include fuel invoices, generation data, efficiency reports, financial records, and other supporting documents required to verify how electricity costs are calculated and ultimately passed on to the consumers. This is an important milestone because it means that the process has now moved beyond speculation into now verification. Financial analysts, engineers, and legal experts are now examining the actual source documents, verifying individual costs, and comparing GEBE's records against relevant fuel market information and applicable regulations. This is precisely how government should work. Facts before conclusion, evidence before opinion, and accountability before assumptions. So where do we go from here? First, BTP is preparing its preliminary technical findings for presentation to the Council of Ministers sometime during the month of August. Second, following that review, BTP will begin issuing structured public reports explaining its verified findings, providing greater transparency regarding the fuel clause, and identifying areas where accountability and operational efficiency can be strengthened. Naturally, any lawful confidentiality required will continue to be respected. So certain things may have to be withheld based on confidentiality. Third, the information gathered through this review will assist government in finalizing the national decree containing general measures to the LBHAM, which will establish permanent regulatory framework governing utility oversight, fuel clause calculation, and social rate mechanism designed to protect seniors and vulnerable households. Let me be clear about what I will not do. I will not prejudge any independent technical review, and I will not promise to predetermine outcome before the evidence has been fully examined. The people of St. Martin deserves facts, not speculation. So what I can promise is this. If this review identifies errors, inefficiencies, or practices requiring corrections, those findings will guide the lawful action this government will take. That is our responsibility, because responsible government is not measured by how quickly it responds. It is measured by whether it responds correctly. So the work now taking place represents more than a review of electricity bills. It represents another step towards restoring public confidence in our institution through professionalism, transparency, and accountability. That is how lasting reform is achieved.
Minister of Justice Natalie Tackling. The detention sector reform program's work continues on several important fronts. First, I am pleased to share that the recruitment process for correctional officers at the Point Branch Prison and House of Detention has generated an overwhelming response. More than 100 individuals applied for these positions. The new Point Branch Prison also continues to move forward. Recently, the first demolition took place, with more to come. Representatives and project contractors also met to coordinate road safety measures that will be implemented throughout the various phases of construction.
Within our detention sector reform program, work continues on several important fronts. First, I am pleased to share that the recruitment process for correctional officers at the Point Blanche Prison and House of Detention has generated an overwhelming response. More than 100 individuals applied for these positions, demonstrating strong public interest in serving within our justice system and supporting rehabilitation. The application period has now closed, and the selection committee is reviewing submissions, and interviews are scheduled to begin this month. Construction for the new Point Blanche prison also continues to move forward. Recently, the first demolition took place, with more to come. Representatives from KPSM, the Ministry of Romy, and project contractors also met to coordinate road safety measures that will be implemented throughout the various phases of construction. Large infrastructure projects inevitably affect surrounding communities, and from the very beginning, we have committed to ensuring that public safety remains central to every stage of this project. This coordination will help minimize disruptions in the Point Blanche area while protecting residents, motorists, pedestrians, and construction personnel as work progresses. This is another example of the coordinated approach being taken to ensure development and public safety is moving forward together. Our Court of Guardianship continues to demonstrate that justice is also about prevention, education, and protecting our most vulnerable. Last month, in partnership with Prominent Women, the department successfully hosted the first session of its community awareness series focused on child protection, abuse and neglect, and the important role of the Court of Guardianship. Although attendance was modest, participation, on the other hand, was exceptional. Parents and caregivers actively engaged in discussions, asked thoughtful questions, and demonstrated a genuine desire to better understand both their rights and their responsibilities. These conversations matter because protecting children begins long before intervention becomes necessary. It begins with education, awareness, and empowering families with the knowledge that they need. The ministry remains committed to expanding these types of community outreach initiatives because prevention will always remain one of the strongest tools within our justice system. Turning now to the Immigration and Border Protection Services. Last month, the ministry officially launched the new Foreigner Management System, the FMS, marking an important step toward modernizing our immigration services. As we continue the transition, please note that the new applications submitted through FMS are being processed as intended. Applications submitted through the previous portal also remain active and are currently being processed as quickly as possible by immigration staff, even if no longer available to the applicants via the portal. We've actually also enlisted the help of the Civil Registry for the coming month in order to make up and get through this backlog that was in the old system. So we would like to clear out everything from 2025 and before to ensure that everything is completely up to date. So I would like to take this opportunity as well for thanking the staff of the Civil Registry who have volunteered to work overtime in their evening hours and their weekends in order to help us address this backlog. And also my gratitude expressed to the Ministry of Azet and to the Prime Minister for facilitating the use of these employees to assist justice. I think this is a nice example of how government can work together in order to address and better the service that we provide to the public.
Are you SXM insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXM is cardless. Request your My SXM account today and enter the virtual office of SXM. Go to sxv.sx and sign up now.
SXM, yeah. Your social and health insurances.
The National Recovery Program Bureau, NRPB, announces that Director Claret Connor will be sworn in as Minister of Public Health, Social Development and Labour, VSA, on Wednesday, August 5th. As Connor assumes his new role, Reuben J. Thompson will assume responsibility for the Bureau's day-to-day operations in the capacity of Deputy Director. Connor has served as Director of the NRPB since the Bureau's formation in January 2019. During his leadership, the Bureau has successfully managed its portfolio of recovery and resilience projects financed through the St. Martin Trust Fund on behalf of the Government of St. Martin. Over the past 7 years, the NRPB has supported the implementation of projects representing investments of approximately $350 million while strengthening its role in advancing the country's recovery and resilience efforts. Since its establishment, the Bureau has evolved into an experienced implementing agency responsible for delivering a diverse portfolio of recovery and resilience projects under the St. Martin Trust Fund. Today, it continues to support the Government of St. Martin in implementing projects that strengthen infrastructure, public services, and long-term resilience across the country. "It has been a privilege to serve as director," said Connor. "I am proud of what the organization has accomplished and grateful to everyone who has contributed to that work over the years. I leave knowing the Bureau is well positioned to continue delivering on its mandate." Thompson also joined the NRPB in 2019. He currently serves as head of the Environmental and Social Department and is a member of the Bureau's management team. "The NRPB has a dedicated team and a clear mandate," said Thompson. "I look forward to building on the work already underway as we continue implementing projects on behalf of the government and serving the people of St. Martin." The NRPB remains committed to supporting the Government of St. Martin in delivering recovery and resilience projects that strengthen communities, public services, and the country's long-term development. More on Inside Government, with Cedric Peterson speaking. Dr. Joe Alcala, Interim Inspector General of the Inspectorate of Public Health.
That helps me to segue into the next question I wanted to ask you. What are the main responsibilities as Interim Inspector General, and how does your role differ from the policy and administrative functions of the ministry?
We try to separate, just like in the Trias Politica, we try to separate the functions governing supervision. Supervision is dedicated to the inspectorate. We supervise the laws. Somebody has to make the laws. Actually, that's policy department of the ministry. And there's execution. Some things are being executed by the field or by the ministry itself. For instance, preventive care is done by the ministry itself. Mother and child welfare, vaccinations, stuff like that. You have to have a separation because you have to be independent and you have to be impartial as a supervising body. The law states that also. That's why the law was made also the law of the inspectorate, stating that the inspectorate is independent to take its own actions. It does report, of course, it reports to the minister, but it's independent in the sense that it can decide where do you act, how to interpret the law, and which actions are taken. The role of the Inspector General is as the head of the department to manage all the different divisions, to supervise that they're working correctly. They're according to the laws they have to supervise that is being executed, to check the quality of their work and organize everything they need to do their work, whether it be finance, manpower, sufficient car fleet, stuff like that. I do have to say that in St. Martin, because there was not developed a position of Chief Inspector Health, I'll explain that later, the Inspector General at the moment also functions as the Chief Inspector Health. So it has a dual function. Is that desirable? No, but we'll go into that later.
Let's go into the execution aspect. Yeah. How does the IVS carry out its work? As are inspections initiated mainly through public complaints, proactive monitoring, unannounced visits, or a combination of these approaches?
It's a combination, yes. We try to work according to a plan. All divisions are supposed to put in a year plan at the beginning of the year, what they intend to do. That includes planned inspections, which for institutions, for businesses, and stuff like that, but also room for when you get notices. If you get complaints, you get any kind of information outside of a complaint that may be of an impact in the area you're working on, you can act on it. So the input is, there has to be a balance. We do complaints also. I do have to say there are not many complaints by the public at this moment. That may have a couple of reasons, one of them being that the inspector has been not well in the picture these past years due to different circumstances, one of them being that there was no inspector general for a couple of years. We are trying to remediate that, and there's a process ongoing now to develop also a website, to put information on the website, to make it more accessible to the persons, to inform them what the inspector does, what the pertaining laws are, and how they can approach us.
What is the risk of a small island developing state that doesn't have a critical function like that filled? What would the effects be as seen through your eyes professionally?
I think the smaller the population, the island is, the bigger risk there is for non-compliance, in the sense that everything is very personal, everything is very close, and that makes it very difficult for people to react, give a complaint, because it may have repercussions. And that makes it even more important that you have an independent body that stands above the field, that in a impartial manner can assess the situation and direct the situation for the better.
When the inspectorate identifies a violation or risk to workers, patients, or the wider public, what actions can it take?
There are different actions depending on the laws that we have. It depends on what room the laws give us. If you talk about health, there is a more broader possibility in the area of health to take actions. We consider actions to be, it can be a warning, it can be a more intensive control. You come by more frequently. They can be given a directive to make certain reports periodically to you, and you can do more inspections. Also, there's a possibility, depending on which article of the law has been non-compliant with, you can give even fines. Bestuurlijke boetes, they can amount to quite some amount of money for individuals and for institutions. That's the part of mostly health. If you look at food safety and you look at labor, most of the laws are directive to fines. If they do not comply with the laws, you can get fines. There are some problems with those. Most of the fines fall in the category of criminal law. If that is the case, actually we can fine a person, but the prosecutor's office decides on the fine. On getting the fine, on prosecuting the person. If the person doesn't pay, if you're going to bring him to court or whatever. So we depend on the Ministry of Justice to execute that part. We're in business now. There's been a couple of years already. We're trying to address that and change that a little bit. And we're making progress in which the Ministry of Justice has agreed with us to give more authority that we write out the fines directly.
On this Tuesday, August 4th, local officials and the state representative were gathered in the Orléans district to officially announce the start of demolition work on the old stadium, which will begin in the coming weeks for a duration of 3 months. The construction phase of the new project will follow, lasting 18 months. Jointly funded by the state and the community for an amount close to €12 million, the Thelbert Carty Stadium will be built to European standards and will be able to host Caribbean sports competitions such as CONCACAF. The SXM is in charge of the construction and monitoring of the site. The architect in charge of the site is Christine Pouzet from Moibus Architecture, and the Technical Studies Office is represented by Eric Versini from Artelia. President Louis Mussington emphasized during his speech that a territory like Saint Martin must be equipped with large sports and cultural facilities. Since Irma, these facilities have been lacking. The Thelbert Carty Stadium will therefore be rebuilt and equipped with the best facilities, synthetic playing field, locker rooms, stands, etc. The Alberic Richards Stadium in Sandy Ground will also be rebuilt to offer an official third playground, allowing youth to practice various sports disciplines during competition phases, strengthen the values of the community, and thrive through sports. The priority neighborhoods of the city's policy are still lacking in local facilities, and the community has committed to addressing this by launching these large public projects with the support of the state. Maison d'Association and Sports Plateau in Grand Case, New Stadium and MJC in Sandy Ground, and the Orléans neighborhood. The restructuring projects post-Irma are expected to be completed in the next 2 years. The demolition work on the Thelbert Carty Stadium will be completed by the end of 2026 to make way for the reconstruction phase by January 2027.
Now, the local weather forecast tonight through Thursday evening. Partly cloudy, isolated showers are likely. Surface winds. Tonight through Thursday evening. Southeasterly to easterly with a light to gentle breeze at 4 to 12 km. Sea conditions, sheltered areas, open waters. State, smooth slight waves to swells, below 2F2, forest outlook through Friday evening. Partly cloudy with light haze. Isolated showers are likely. And now, 3 days weather forecast.
SXM, your social and health insurance is SXM, your social and health insurance is.
Are you SXV insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXV is cardless. Request your My SXV account today and enter the virtual office of SXV. Go to sxv.sx and sign up now.
SXM, yeah, your social and health insurance is.
Minister Plenipotentiary Dr. Gracita Arindel recently welcomed the newly appointed Minister Plenipotentiary of Curaçao, Sydney Justiana, to the Cabinet of Sint Maarten as part of his introductory meetings in The Hague following his arrival in the Netherlands 3 weeks ago. The introductory meeting provided an opportunity for both ministers to exchange views on the role and responsibilities of a minister plenipotentiary and discuss their respective priorities and areas of focus for the coming period. They also reaffirmed the importance of maintaining close cooperation between the Caribbean countries of the Kingdom on matters of mutual interest. Minister Arindel stated, "I wish the incoming Minister Plenipotentiary every success and strength as he assumes his new responsibilities. I look forward to working closely with him to further strengthen the bonds of friendship and cooperation between our islands in the Netherlands for the benefit of our respective communities. As a token of appreciation, Minister Arundel presented Minister Justiana with a copy of Sint Maarten, Vintage Photography, a publication showcasing the shared history and cultural heritage of the island. This is our SXM Daily Newscast. Thank you for joining us.